Battle Breakdown is back, and this is episode 3. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for clicking on today's video. I appreciate every single one of you. Today's matchup is going to be the 2019 North American International Championship Masters Division Finals between Emery Taylor and Stephane Ivanoff. Now, Stephane came in with a win in the previous season, I believe. So, you know, it was already crazy that he made it through this gigantic event back here. And M, a player looking to kind of make his mark on the field. M had been relatively unheard of outside of the North American scene, and M really came in here to make a statement with his Pikachu deck, and then Stephane was playing a little bit of an interesting Zoroark, like Dewgong, Muck, like concoction here. So let's jump right into the game, and we can talk about how it went through. Obviously, the matchup is favored for Stephane, but Pikachu can do a couple of small things to kind of swing the matchup back into its favor. So let's see if I can skip through the little intro thing or whatever here. There we go. Players are setting up here. Obviously, the coin flip matters a lot because if Zoroark can set up their Muck before Pikachu can get the ball rolling, Pikachu loses a lot of their kind of stuff. Also, there's M, known for his iconic muscle band headband thing. And Stephane has already won 1 year. So, look, immediately off the prizes, we see that double colorless, one of them is prized for the Zoroark player. That is important. There is triple acceleration energy in this deck, as well as, you know, the deck revolves around using Tapu Lele into Bridget, into Nest Balls, like, pretty frequently. Judge is important. Double Guzma prize is pretty huge. Let's see what M's got prized over here. Nothing crazy for M. This was a Lily-based engine back in the day where, like, Lilying turn 1. I remember Stephane didn't play Bridget, I think. I think he played, like, a Lily Nest Ball engine, which was, like, the controversy, or not the controversy, but, like, the two sides of what matchup you want to play. So M gets the coin flip here, and there is a Mew on Stephane's board. Now what this Mew does, wow, why is it so dark? What this Mew does is bench barrier. If you guys don't remember it, it does stop bench attacks. So the turn 2 tag bolt, or like turn 3 tag bolt, or whatever that M is going to look for to kind of wipe out two big threats, is now mitigated. Now M is playing pretty much to his outs here. He gets a free retreater, and he puts 2 energies into the discard expertly, being able to use that Tapu Koko Prism if it comes into play. He's got the Let Loose Marshadow on turn 1, putting Stephane down to 4 cards. Now, this could be a really good, really good play because Stephane could get stuck on his 4 cards, but Zoroark, if they were playing the Bridget engine, would get stuck much quicker, just because if you have to use your supporter for the turn on Bridget, and you didn't have a follow-up supporter to kind of play the game, you'd get stuck, and the game could just be over. But for a deck like Pikachu, you would have the option to use cards like Dedenne here, and that would just, get you 6 more cards, and you get to keep playing the game. So, unfortunately for M, he does miss an energy, and he just passes it over to Stephane. Now, Stephane goes for the Nest Ball. Now, Stephane's playing the Nest Ball, like, Lily build, which gives him so many more options, and he's got this, like, Poipole Naganadel tech, which he's going to be targeting the Stinger GX in the middle of the game. It's kind of, he's going to damage that Pikachu because, nothing in Zoroark besides Lycanroc could really one-shot this Pikachu. So he wants to kind of hit into it and then use the Stinger GX, put both players back at 3 prizes. With the bench barrier Mew, it ensures that Pikachu can't tag bolt and take 3 prizes in the same turn, because there was nothing really that shut down that tag bolt or the Mew. And from that point onwards, you can kind of win. So Stephane does get stuck. We see this turn 1, Stephane doesn't play a single supporter. But here's something that I want to importantly note. M slams down this Zapdos, attaches an energy to it, and he's going to bring up this Zora to take a knockout. While this, I think, is a fine play, M's hand, I believe, let's see the hand real quick. He had the Tapu Koko Prism in hand, so I think there was no reason not to pop the Tapu Koko Prism to start off. And look, he's got the... let me rewind a little bit. I remember seeing an energy switch in this hand. Maybe we'll go ahead and see if he shows it again. Okay, he's moving through his hand way too fast. But I remember seeing an energy switch in M's hand and a Tapu Koko Prism. So this is one of those situations where Zapdos is almost always correct as a 1-prizer. But with M's hand, he had himself a way to basically attack with Pikachu this turn. With the energy switch plus the Tapu Koko Prism plus the Guzma, you can still put that Zapdos down if you want, but now you're bench locked. And the Zapdos is going to get stuck in the... Well, I mean, you have Zeraora, but if you had full blitz this turn, you would be able to set up that Zeraora on the bench as well as a follow-up attacker, be able to attack in with a full blitz once again, be able to keep putting the pressure on because M did have Guzma sitting in his hand. Now he has no energy on his bench either. So not popping the Tapu Koko Prism is just wrong across the board. So, of course, this is a really big high-pressure match, so M must have been nervous. I think I've talked to him about this after the fact, but putting energies on your board at least, even if you make this play, you'll have the Guzma for a follow-up turn to keep moving the Zapdos, but now you need to top deck an energy or make a play or something to even get to play the game. Obviously, Stephane is still in a really bad spot because he doesn't have supporters or anything, but M could have been able to full blitz with the hand. I don't know what the discussion here is. Okay, we'll skip ahead a little bit, and there's the knockout. We're just going to take the 80 damage, take a prize. So there is the E-switch in M's hand. There is a choice band. So if M had set it up that way, then he gets to put the pressure on with the follow-up. Guzma, he's got a choice band. All you have to do is dig for like an E-power, something like that. There's a Dedenne in your hand, so you can keep drawing cards. Now you're bench locked, so you're stuck with the hand you have. Stephane gets a Dedenne. He gets to play the game now, which is never something you want to see after a let loose. You bought yourself time, and now there's a Dedenne on the board, which means that M could target that down for a free 2 prizes at some point. And Stephane is now just in setup mode. It's kind of like I need to get the ball rolling. I need to get to play the game. There's Ditto Prism, one of the strongest cards to like ever exist for any stage 1 related deck, because it can evolve into anything, which was crazy. One of the best like printed cards in my opinion, like just balance overall, like just really good for like any deck. A double colorless comes into play for the Zoroark, and a Lily for a fresh hand of 6. Now Stephane just wants to keep getting basics into play, kind of make it so M can't target down his like lone Zorua, cut off his draw power, because Zoroark, this like combination Zoroark deck is going to revolve around kind of like getting all its pieces into play. So that's kind of the biggest thing. So he's just going to pass the seal on the active. The seal doesn't really do anything here. There's a draw for M, another E-switch, I believe. So M could have, now look at M's hand. He's kind of stuck because he only has Guzma as his supporter. So what's he going to do here? He's going to go ahead and retreat, and he's going to be able to Guzma this Ditto, which means there's no longer going to be a muck, which is a great play. I think from M, he recognizes that this Ditto is going to be a problem down the line. This Ditto is going to become a muck, and if it becomes a muck, he loses access to his Let Looses, his Dedennes, his Zeraora, all these amazing abilities. But will you notice that M is now behind on energy? And if Stephane has a Zoroark, he can just come up and take a knockout, because Zapdos is kind of weak. But it looks like Stephane is debating, does he want to attack this turn? We see the trade coming through. Oh, no, he's lilying for 4 first. So maybe there's no attack coming through. Or maybe he wants to attack with Dewgong, setting up a knockout on both these potential guys on the bench. So we're getting like a trade counter into play here. 2 Zoroarks is still, fine for Stephane to work with. He's getting rid of the muck. We know it's in the discard. But Stephane's deck does play, I think, 2 Stretcher and all these pieces. So I think Stephane was looking for a Dewgong play this turn. He's just putting the energy back onto the Zoroark, and he's going to go ahead and pass. His gameplay to win is still the Stinger play, but now we look at M's hand. He is stuck. His hand is so stuck. What does he do? He had all these pieces. He had the Nest Ball for the Cocoa Prism. He had these E-switches on that turn, but now he can't play any of these cards besides a Guzma. And what's he going to Guzma, really, for that 1 prize? I mean, the Mew looks alluring. You can keep taking another prize, but what are you really accomplishing with this board? Stephane has all the time in the world to more or less set up this Stinger play that he's looking for down the line. All he needs to do is basically Guzma up this Pikarom, hit it 1 time, and have a Poi Pole, or maybe 2 Poi Poles on the bench, and the game is kind of over. The biggest thing that we're seeing from M's side is that there is no energies on this Pikarom. There's no energies besides on the Zapdos, and that's somewhat concerning. Now, Stephane has to get 2 Poi Poles or something down probably this turn or next turn. The clock is still ticking for Stephane. But there's obviously no threat of this Pikarom, doing anything here, which is probably the only solace you have kind of in this situation. If the Pikarom was powered up, then you're like a little bit scared, because these Zoroarks can fall like flies with double E-power, Choice Band, E-power. Full Blitz does 150, E-power gives you that 30, the Choice Band puts you at 210. But now the Zapdos isn't really proving any of a threat, and the bench is locked as well. So as long as Stephane doesn't put down a stadium for M to bump, and Cocoa Prism and set up the board, M is stuck. He's like in a really bad spot. He's pretty stuck. But he's got the double E-switch in hand. He has the Nest Ball. All he needs is a way to make a bench spot. If M can make a singular bench spot, M gets to play the game. But now the Pikarom gets brought into the active, and 100 damage. Yeah, I think 100, right? 100 damage gets dealt to it. So now the damage is set. The stage is set for Stephane to play the game. There's an energy for M. He gets to kind of retreat and run away. But again, the hand is not cooperating. He has all the pieces he needs. The bench is being locked. This is something that a lot of new players, as well as myself, I've made this mistake plenty of times when you focus on a play in competitive settings, is bench locking yourself when you don't need to. That was kind of what the Zapdos play really did. It bench locked M when he didn't need to bench lock himself. And that's something that you like sometimes happens, and then all of a sudden a lot of the cards in your deck that are meant to help you draw more cards, help you get to play the game, they become useless cards. So this is a prime example of where you didn't really need to bench lock yourself. So that's just kind of a lesson to be learned. I've done this plenty of times. I did it even more recently at one of the, like, the Limitless minor tournaments, like finals. Like I make this mistake myself quite a bit. It's a very hard mistake to not make, because sometimes you have like a play in your hand and you just want to make that play. But yeah, so M is now sacking a Dedenne. He's switching to the active and he's Tingly returning. So M is using his GX attack, taking all of his energies off the board. So he is making himself a bench spot. Finally, he's paralyzing the Zoroark. He's saying, Stephane, you need another Guzma to play the game here. But now that the GX attack is gone, Stephane no longer has any threat of losing the game with the Stinger play. So if Stephane goes into the Stinger play, M can never take these 5 prizes, or like the 3 prizes, sorry, he needs in one turn to end the game. Which, like this seal basically becomes that free prize, right? Like the tagboat play would either take out the seal or the Dedenne on the bench, and you knock out like a Zoroark or something in the active, and that's how you win the game post Stinger. But now that risk of that play is gone too. So the E-switches are gone. Stephane has, all the time in the world now to set up this Stinger play. He can even... I mean, M still has Cocoa Prism, which is the one good thing. But with no E-switches and stuff in play, getting a full blitz powered up again next turn is going to be a little bit difficult. We see Stephane having like a million cards in hand. So M is not really able to touch that hand size, and Stephane gets to trade every single turn here. And he is basically building a plethora of resources to kind of set up this combo to clean out the game. And so there's the Poipole hitting the board. Stephane fully well understanding that the only way this Poipole gets really knocked out is if M has like probably his, I think we've seen 3 Guzma so far, so it has to be his 4th Guzma, like exactly 4th Guzma, to knock out this Poipole, which is another like big resource management thing. And Stephane has an Acerola, which is not something you want to see if you are M. And there's the triple Excel energy. And so Stephane gets to put 60 and 60 somewhere else. Now this play also means that he can win the game regularly if he'd like to, using Giratina. So Stephane plays Giratina with Distortion Door, which puts 1 damage counter onto the board wherever he'd like it to. So now this Pikachu is in like very easy one-shot range from anything. And so Stephane can also just win the game via regular means, because we can see on M's board there's no energy. There's a Cocoa Prism, I believe, is what he grabbed. And he has the 2 energies in his hand, but he's going to be able to have to put the Dedenne down this turn. So M is not out of it yet by any means. He's just in a really, really tricky predicament here. He kind of needs to find the Guzma this turn. I don't know if there's another Guzma in M's deck. He needs to find a Guzma and E-switch. He has an E-switch in hand, I think. But again, attacking with this Pikachu also means that you're out of juice. Like if this Pikachu goes down, you're completely out of juice. So now we're going to see M having the Stretcher in hand. He's not going to play the Stretcher. He's not going to put back this 1 Pikachu. Would have been an okay play. He draws into complete blanks, unfortunately for himself. And now there's 3 energy kind of on the board that are stranded. So this is like a weird play. Just because I understand like where M is. He's like stuck. He's hard. Like there's damage on his Pikachu. The inevitability of the Stinger GX next turn is coming. Stephane would not have made that play if he didn't have, the pieces in his hand. You don't have a way to reset that hand. You Dedenne desperately to find something, but you're locking yourself by not giving yourself a chance to let loose here, and put Stephane at 4. So what can you do? It's kind of a desperation play more than anything. Look at that. Stephane's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, and there's just 80 damage from the Zapdos, which is honestly kind of negligible. This damage on the Dewgong doesn't matter. So now we're going to see the Palpad. Stephane putting back Acerola probably. So now by damaging this guy also, I don't know what's going on here. But by damaging the Dewgong as well, you've given Stephane an Acerola target, so he doesn't need to find Guzma necessarily to move this Dewgong anymore. And now the Acerola becomes an out as well. So this 80 damage not only, I think, hurts you, it helps Stephane because you have 3 prizes left to take. So you have to kind of take, like, I think every attack from here on out, if you're M, has to be a prize card. And that's kind of how you have to look at the rest of the game. Like, maybe I think the play would have been there to power up a Pikachu, Stretcher back the Pikachu that was in your discard and the Zoroark, and you have to kind of full blitz, and you have to hope you can full blitz and set up another Pikachu, and then the turn when the stinger, I don't know, when the stinger happens, it's kind of rough because the 3 prizes come into play. So you have to kind of look for a way to reset Stephane's hand, but that's also difficult. So again, this entire game, like the last matchup we looked at, boils down to that turn 1 play or turn 2 play that M made, where he slammed that Zapdos and bench locked himself. So I just want to reiterate that you have to be cognizant of the plays you're making in those kinds of situations, because they can be very detrimental. And yes, it's like, oh, I'm dead drawing or something, that like notion will come into play. But the moment that notion comes into play, it's like you're not actually dead drawing. You kind of did it to yourself is the like synopsis here. And there's a Stinger GX. M and Stephane are both now shuffling their prizes into their deck and laying out 3 prize cards. So now M's got this Pikachu stuck in the active. It can move because we see M's hand is all energy. But all Stephane needs to find next turn is a Guzma and the game ends. And now Stephane has expertly set up the Catwalk as well with the Persian GX. So from M's perspective, it feels almost doomed. A game that was going so well for you, a game where you were taking all these prize cards, a game. There is a Guzma in Stephane's prizes, so that might have been the Guzma that he put back. But we also know that 2 Guzmas were prized off the bat, so Stephane shuffled 2 Guzmas in, and 1 Guzma came out. So he still has Guzmas. And we see a Lily come through, an Electro Power come through, a Retreat, and a simple attack with the Red Knuckles. Now, this is a smart play from M, because the Red Knuckles does do a ton of damage, because you're hitting for weakness. Wait. That's a lot of damage. How did that damage get in there? I don't know what happened here, but there was a lot of damage that happened. Is that math right? 180, 200? It's weak to... Did they show the... Oh, I think it's weak to Psychic. That's why. Yeah, okay. It's weak to Psychic. That's why. Which is a cool play. It's a very cool play from M to recognize that that's a play you can make. But you're still not out of the woods, right? Like, now Stephane's just going to thin his deck. He sees that the Guzmas are in the deck. He's going to get 2 trades. No knockout was done. So there's no answer for Stephane to... Catwalk right here, but there's the Acerola, which is just equally as bad. Now, this Acerola means that Stephane can potentially pick up the Dewgong, and he can Pokecom for... Well, I guess you can't Guzma this turn if you make that play. But Stephane could literally just take the knockout on the active with the Acerola and hit him with Zoroark. And if that play happens also... it's still like I'm taking my 1 prize. The Dedenne on the bench is like free fodder. Catwalk is, or like Persian's attack is in play as well. I don't know what the attack's name is, but it's like Be Revenge, just better. It's no Be Revenge is better attack. So we see the Acerola. Stephane's wiping all that damage, that hard work that M just did. He's attaching a DCE on the back as well, kind of setting up this like checkmate scenario, saying that like, hey, I can do this. You can't really do anything about it. And we're seeing the knockout. So he's just going to take the 1 prize. It was the Guzma. We know the prize was the Guzma. But M now has to reset, has the difficult task of resetting Stephane's hand, as well as attacking with something that isn't this Pikachu and taking a knockout, which is possible. If he finds the E-switch, which he can do with this Volkner right here, he can knock out the active Zoroark and put himself at 1 prize, which can win the game next turn. So there was a possibility that if, M had kind of played in a way where he could have taken a prize this turn, we're just going to see the Ultra Ball. Looks like. Instead, probably grabbing the Let Loose Marshadow. He is scared of what Stephane has in that hand. It is a big hand size. We're going to see the Let Loose come through, an attachment on the active. So now he's banking this Let Loose on hitting an E-switch. And without the E-switch, the game might as well be over. There's the E-power as well, which means the damage is good to go. So M is in a position where he can play the game if he finds an E-switch. There's the E-switch. M gets rewarded, takes the knockout. And, well, Stephane still needs to find a Guzma to take the knockout here, or he can go Persian, Triple Excel, and I think he's got enough Pokemon in the discard to make the knockout, or he's got to be close. So he puts the Persian up, and we just see the Guzma, and there's the Zoroark, and there's the one-shot. That's a very anticlimactic ending, but we saw that the game still can be very close from the Pikachu side. It wasn't an end-all, be-all scenario. That Zeraora is a really good attacker. Imagine had M attacked on that turn 1, putting energies onto the Zeraora. Therefore, he can always, the turn the Stinger happens, something like that happens, you can either play for the Tag Bolt with the E-switches, you can play for a Zeraora attack. Like, M had options But that was a classic case of bench locking yourself. And M had a very good recovery. I think he played it super well towards the back half of the game to kind of put yourself back into the game and like play to your outs. And he played to all of his outs super well. Obviously, all Stephane needed was a few pieces to kind of close out the game. So from that situation, you really had to hope that Stephane didn't hit anything. But his deck was so thin because of the trades, and it was very unlikely that Stephane would miss, given 5 cards plus 2 trades, or 1 trade maybe. But we still got to see M have a chance. And now heading into game 2, obviously M is probably thinking about, hey, I need to get more energy onto the board. That's probably the biggest thing. Did I mess up somewhere? Yes, you did. It is okay. We all make mistakes. I myself have found myself choking in plenty of big important match scenarios, especially on stream. If you guys want to watch any of me losing on stream, I lose a lot on stream because I choke. It is a high pressure situation for a newer player like M, or like not a newer player, but like a younger player like M. This is probably the highest stakes scenario to play in. There is Stephane's Stinger though. That is important. I think it's very important to note it is one of the bottom prize cards. So if Stephane wants this to opt for the Stinger play, he could probably find it off of the first prize. But I think I remember Stephane only played a 1/1 line of Stinger in his deck because it was simply attack. It was a means to an end. And we see just a blank let loose from M. I think he had an electromagnetic radar in his hand, which I would have liked to see him play and just put a Pikachu into play and maybe the Zoroark, because that electromagnetic radar. I'm gonna go back and pause because I think there was a radar in his hand. I want to double check before I say something incorrect here. Yeah, see, there's a radar here, and I feel like you could probably pitch the Guzma and probably an E-Power and grab yourself the Pikachu and the Zoroark, giving yourselves 2 less pieces to find post let loose. Because after let loose, all you really need to find is an energy attachment for the turn. And if you find that energy attachment for the turn, you're big chillin', because you can find like Cocoa Prism to get the extra energy that following turn. You can find yourself Thunder Mountain. You can find yourself all these pieces to kind of play the game. But by doing this now, you're kind of let loosing yourself into 4 cards and saying, I hope I draw into a Detene or a way to play the game. And M gets instantly punished by looking at that hand. There's another let loose, I think. There's the Thunder Mountain. So, I mean, M would have had a great... And we see a Lily immediately from Stephane. So, unlike game 1, Stephane this time gets everything he needs, basically. He's got, like, no nest balls or anything, but he just a pass, and there's no Pikachu. And so M just has to pass again. And that really sucks if you're M, because... I don't know, even if you radar, you're still stuck with the same hand. So that's not like really something that changes the game if you're M. So I can't fault him for the 5 cards he has in his hand right now. Those 5 cards are dead. This is a bad hand by all intents and purposes. But having a Pikachu and Zoroark in play would still incentivize, a play somewhere. But now Stephane can go on the aggressive. Stephane can literally... Oh, he's just passing. I mean, he's saying, I'm not doing anything, you're not doing anything. Another pass comes through. There's a Zoroark. We're going to see trades come through now. There's a trade. Boom, boom. There's a Guzma. So Stephane could just take a prize if he'd like to. With the triple Excel energy and just kind of put the pressure on. He can move his Zoroark into the active spot now as well, which is huge. And it's a free prize. So now M is under the gun to kind of do something. There's a Pikachu top deck. One of those cards that, he could radar for, but now we're kind of stuck. And Stephane's got 7 cards in hand, a Guzman that's seal, bringing it back up, and a pass. M in this situation wisely understanding that benching that Pikachu is not going to do anything. It's only going to give Stephane a Guzma out. So in this situation, not benching the Pikachu is a very good play from M. But it might be a little bit too late to kind of do what you want. Now, if Stephane gets the muck out, which I think that's what he's going to be looking for, all of a sudden, all the Let Loose Marshadows, the Zeraora, all these wonderful abilities that are in M's deck no longer become viable. So this is a really scary part if you're ever going second against the Zoroark deck in this format, that the muck just comes down and all of a sudden over half your deck stops working. Like, your deck just stops working, and that's, I don't know, then half your deck becomes dead cards. That was a really scary part about playing in Zoroark in this format. There's the muck coming through, a Tate and Liza to shuffle and draw 5. That is an important card to note also, because Stephane could have switched using that Tate if he had the energy in hand. So we see the Pokecom coming through. The Pokecom already happened, but the other seal back, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 cards come through. Another Zoroark, which is really important for Stephane. He just wants to get Zoroarks into play now. And pass. an energy comes down. So now you go for the Pikarom. You have to kind of put the Pikarom down. You're giving Stephane a Guzma target if you do this way, but there is also 150 damage on Stephane's board if he can move it. Obviously, that last 10 damage is negligible, but you kind of have to put something down and do something. Like, the play has to be made. There's going to be a Pal Pad here, putting these two cards back in. The scary part, obviously, if you're M, is if Stephane gets the Guzma, regardless of the Stinger play or no Stinger play, you are not in a position to attack with this Pikarom. So if a Guzma comes through, this poor Pikarom is two-shot worthy, and like even if you can full blitz with that Thunder Mountain that's in your hand, what are you full blitzing to? The Dedenne on your bench? That's not really going to do anything. So for M, there's very few top decks that can even save him in this game right now. I don't even know what I would want to top deck if I was M. Maybe like an E-Radar to kind of play the game, and Lily comes through. Just an attachment to the active, because why not, I guess. A trade coming through. Dewgong. I think you can attack for 60 here. So 60 damage, which isn't a lot, but now it sets up the one shot on the Dedenne in case of a Guzma or whatever. And it's creating a problem for M, because now you can't just pass. Well, you can, I guess. I mean, he has to. His hand's not good. But now it's creating a problem for M where this 60 damage is going to add up really, really quickly. And Stephane is just trading through his deck. He's flying. That was the biggest difference between Zoroark and Pikarom in this format. I was a huge Pikarom advocate. I think the deck had a good Zoroark matchup, and I will stand by that. But now we're seeing what is happening here, where Stephane can just retreat, take the 2 prizes, and it feels like he's got some sort of a chokehold now on M. Going down to 3 prizes. A Guzma on the Muck comes through. Muck is the biggest guy in the deck, but we did see Stephane shuffle back into Tate and Liza. So Stephane has that Tate and Liza, and I think it's in his hand, which does not bode well for M. We're going to see a couple of trades. Stephane is kind of going through the motions. This is important to note, guys. Even if the game feels won, and you don't know what your opponent can do, you still want to go through the motions correctly. You still want to make the correct plays across the board, because in the off chance that some like 0.00001% like freak accident happens, or like something crazy happens and your opponent finds a way back into the game, you don't want to be kicking yourself because you didn't thin properly, because you didn't sequence properly, because you left dead cards in your hand and in your deck that should have been in the discard because you didn't thin properly. So that's something important to note. Stephane is playing it textbook, kind of getting everything done, thinning out the cards he feels are useless in this late game scenario. He has like a 20 card hand, so it doesn't even matter. A Tate and Liza comes through, and a 120 hit. A very strong 120 now. And looking at M's hand, there is nothing that M can even do here. He's just drawing blank after blank after blank after blank, and a concession from M. A very, very close set, in my opinion. There was a couple of small decisions still. That game 2 obviously was not close, but game 1 was a very close game. A couple of decisions from M that could have swayed it, and I think the tempo just completely shifted after that game 1. And momentum is a huge thing in finals like this, especially if you're a younger player, someone who's newer to that big stage. Myself have not been on this like a stage this big, so props to M for even, playing his heart out in that game 1. Stephane, now the 2-time international champion of North America, a crazy, crazy accomplishment to even have, back-to-back even, well, he could do it again, honestly, in 2022, to defend his title after 2 years of no competitive play, I guess. Like, he can come back and defend that title. Thank you guys for watching, as always. That was today's battle breakdown video. Let me know in the comments, again, what kind of matches you guys want to see. A lot of amazing suggestions have been offered. To be completely frank, also, if you guys watched to this point in the video, I will clarify that I will be covering modern matches in person when regionals do come back. That will be something that the channel focuses on, where we will be covering VODs kind of very frequently and good matches and kind of going through a full regionals VOD. That's something I'll be doing on my Twitch stream as well, and then we'll bring it over to the YouTube channel from my reviews. So for now, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the love that you guys have shown on these battle breakdowns. It really makes it worth it for me. So I will see you guys for the next battle breakdown episode. Peace out.